Welcome back to the Circa Hotel on Fremont in downtown Vegas. We are at Stadium Swim. It is another draft week edition of Barn Burner. We're living the life here. Are you kidding me? We got pools, like 3-story screens behind us, blackjack dealers in bikinis, NHL trades, pick swaps. It's all happening, people. It's all happening. Goodness. What a day we've got. Already lots of news in the NHL universe. And we had a great chance to sit down with Jamie Noodles McLennan earlier. We'll hear that. Tod Button, the director of scouting for the Calgary Flames, coming up. And we may even have a special guest here to join us before the end of the program. It's a locked and loaded, probably 90 minutes to 2 hours here. And we'll start by welcoming a new partner to Barn Burner. It's Spring Financial. Unexpected expenses always show up, whether it's a car breaking down, maybe your home needs some repairs. Hey, could be a broken hockey stick for your kid. Guess what? You can borrow money for those unexpected expenses right from your phone and receive an e-transfer within hours. Spring Financial offers online personal loans from $500 up to $35,000 with no stress and no branch visits ever. Join thousands of happy customers who have made them Canada's top-rated lender. You can apply in 3 minutes at springfinancial.ca/barn. They present our first guest of the day, Noodles. Again, that promo code, it is springfinancial.ca/barn.
Looking for the fastest personal loan in Canada? Well, look no further. Spring Financial offers fully online personal loans with zero stress and no need for branch visits. But don't take our word for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Spring Financial.
Thank you very much.
Spring Financial is the best.
Apply today at springfinancial.ca.
Morning, Jamie. We're here poolside in Vegas. How are things back in the northern tundra, the non-42 degrees Celsius part of the continent? How are we doing there?
Not too bad. It's good situation. I'm trying to wind down. I'm back from the finals and all of that fun stuff. So it's it's now the cup's been handed out. It's moving forward. I'd much rather be where you are, but I do have air conditioning, so I'm happy about that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The final, when you look back at it, will that be in your mind a classic for the ages? Will it, we don't get to see Game 7 very often to begin with in a Stanley Cup final. We hadn't seen a team come back from 3-0 forever. I mean, is this just one that you'll never forget being around, covering, watching?
Yeah, I mean, it was very unique. The unfortunate part is, 10 years from now, it'll be like, hey, Edmonton lost in the finals. Sometimes you don't remember the pathway. It was like Game 7. I'll remember it because I was there and covering it and all of that. But, when you look at the list of cup winners, it's not going to go, oh, they won in Game 7 after they crapped away a 3-0 lead. There's no context to the storyline. As Florida won, Edmonton lost.
Yeah.
But Edmonton had a good push. I think they're a very good team, and it showed how close they can be and are.
Yeah.
Now, they got lots of question marks there, but every team does. But I think, when you look at it, every year they've kind of inched forward. The last 3 years, they've lost to the Cup champion. So it shows that, they pretty darn good teams have to beat them. And, they consider themselves pretty good team as well. So, I was on the ice and talking to some of the guys, the Sam Bennett's and Carter Verhaeghe and guys like that. And I asked them, did last year's disappointment help you with this year? And they basically flat out said yes.
Yeah.
They said, we knew what to expect. We know how hard it is to win 4 games. So, at the end of the day, it's for me, I think I look at Edmonton as a team that, is going to be a top 5 team next year. I think there's guys that are probably going to take a step back, and maybe McDavid if he has surgery or something like that. They're not going to, I don't think they'll win the league next year, but I think they'll be a playoff team and then push for the cup again. But, lots of potential change there, but also they've got the spine of a team there. They've got their starting goaltender. They got their number 1 defenseman in Bouchard and Ekholm with a pairing, I guess, call it. And you got the forwards. And regardless of the Draisaitl situation, you've got him under contract for another year. You've got Zach Hyman. You've got RNH. Evander Kane, I don't know if he's going to have surgery and probably need a little bit of time, but the spine of the team is returning. Now you just got to figure out kind of filling out the outside edges.
Yeah, it's depth pieces. And you're right. It's cruel off the top. Outside of Calgary, no one talks about an 0-4 loser in a 7-game series. It's just a footnote. But in the
Exactly.
one market, you're like, man, that no one will remember that ride. But it's that's how the cruel nature of sport. And I'll say this. If the Oilers can become a championship team, they'll point to that. Just like we heard Gretzky pointing to the Islanders and walking by their open locker room door with the ice bags, the mythology around the Oilers dynasty, having to watch what the Islanders did and learn from losing to them. But then the other side is, if this really does have a house of cards potential, if they don't win next year, well, now you're into a Bouchard theoretical arbitration case, which is insane because he's probably a 100-point defenseman. Like, why wouldn't he get Erik Karlsson money from an arbitrator? Right. And then you're also in a spot where Leon Draisaitl can say, yeah, I think I'm worth 15. And I don't know that as the cap continues to rise on any sort of deal with term that isn't fair. And so if they don't win, that's almost like, it feels like next year's the whole pivot point of how you felt about the McDavid era in Edmonton, because it might end in 2 years, or it could be last year was the beginning of this dynastic type club. Like, it really is that fickle, isn't it?
It is. It's very close. And you've got to figure out what the players want, what the management situation. I thought Draisaitl handled himself fine yesterday with his comments.
He said all the right things.
Yeah, he did. And, people are trying to read the lines. Like, they're 2 days removed from losing in the Cup Final. You got to let them breathe a little bit. Mm-hmm. One thing I would say, and I'm not going to steal it as my own, but Craig Button, I thought he had an unbelievable comment last night on our station saying, if you earmark whatever number for Draisaitl, let's say it's the discount's 14, we'll call it, something like that, 14 and change, and McDavid gets 16, in his next deal. That's $30 million. The cap's going to be 100. He goes, you can build a pretty darn good team at 100 million with 70 million left over. You're right. Bouchard might chew 11 of that. Yeah. But, this is where you need to have value contracts where RNH is at 5 million. Evander Kane's at 5 million. Zach Hyman's at 5 million. They might have to do something with the Darnell Nurse deal that would free up, some money. But I don't think it's like, people pointing to it saying like, well, there's no way they can make it work. I disagree with that because the cap is going up. What you do need to do is manage your team properly. You're right. Yeah. Skinner's going to need a new contract. Bouchard's going to need a new contract. You're right. But, maybe those are bridge situations, like Skinner's is another bridge, or maybe it's a 4-year or 5-year at 6. Like, you can manage these deals. And the other thing I wanted to point out, and maybe you could weigh in on it because it's important, is you might be able to get some really good players on value contracts because guys may go, that team's close. I want to win.
Yeah.
So you might get a guy that signs the Max Domi / Tyler Bertuzzi contracts on a 1-year, not a ton of money, going, we're good players, but we want a piece of that because we think they're close. So, that might factor in the next couple years when they start to do the cap gymnastics.
It should factor in, and I think it should have factored in more, to be honest. I haven't seen a lot of guys going to Edmonton on short-term deals to go play with Connor, and I think you should have. And even when Connor Brown did, he got handsomely paid a $3.25 million bonus just to get to 10 games. I mean, that's not a value 1-year deal. That's pretty much when they've brought guys in, they've had to pay the full freight. It wasn't like Hyman took a deal. That was the most money on the table. Great signing. But everyone's like, I'll go, but I need to get market. Does that change now because they were a game short? We'll see. It hasn't happened yet, to be fair, but they also hadn't been this far.
Right. And I think now that people realize like they're that close or closer, like say, we'll call it, you could argue that some of these teams that they went through, like Vancouver, you get Demko, like, Vancouver is right there knocking at the door. I think Vegas might have a retro. Although personally, I think Vegas might take a step back. I think that they've played so many cap gymnastics here, and they're going to have to walk away from Marcia. So they might have to walk away from some guys. They might have to trade. You keep hearing that Petrangelo's available. Now all of a sudden that breaks up like their amazing defensive core. Their goaltenders are what they are. Like I think Vegas might come back down to earth a little bit before they go back north. Dallas, same thing. Dallas is a great team and just more with experience of those young guys. But keep in mind, that's another year of service on Jamie Benn. Another, Joe Pavelski's gone. another year of service on Tyler Seguin.
Yeah.
Those are guys that, long in the tooth, where they were really good this year in their defined roles. Now, Jim Nill is an unbelievable GM. I'm sure he's going to be able to fill that out, no problem. But there's no guarantee that all of these top tier teams, including the Edmonton Oilers, get right back to where they were, because there's other teams around them that are getting better, or at least growing to get better.
Yeah, we looked at the beginning of the playoff bracket, and you're like, there's 12 teams that could win this thing. Like Washington can't, the Islanders can't, probably not Nashville, and everyone else. You're like, yeah, why not? Like maybe LA does get their shit. Like it's really hard, and so it's easy for we'll be back. But as Rhett always tells us on this show, you think, especially when it happens early in your career, we'll just be back in the final again, and you might not. It might take a decade. It might be in a different locale by the time you're there. Who's going to run this Edmonton team? Ken Holland today, making it official that he's not returning. He wasn't at the draft. His contract's up. It's been long speculated that he was going to walk at the end of the year, and I think the only fly in the ointment was they nearly won the cup, and they're like, okay, well, maybe we will leave room for you to come back. But it just felt like it wasn't going to be a fit moving forward, or because it never really got any momentum that he was coming back. So you have Connor's old agent's the president, but does he want to be a GM? Does he hire a GM? When do we do this? This is the most important piece we just talked about. It's managing all these potential free agents and contracts coming up, and we don't know who's going to do it.
Yeah, I do believe, just from, and this is not in the know, but more reading the tea leaves, is like, don't you think it's going to be somebody from Jeff Jackson's past or in his orbit, somewhere where
the coach was, right?
Yeah, like he just, listen, he was an agent. He knows a lot of people. I guarantee you there's, managers out there that he trusts. I think the biggest thing that they would need is somebody on the same page. I always got the sense that Ken Holland wasn't maybe on the same page as them. He executed some of the things they wanted.
Yeah.
But I think, Ken Holland's history, he never fired coaches. And all of a sudden he fires, Jay Woodcroft. That might have come from above.
That's the impression I got. Yeah, that wasn't his call. And then they hired the new coach, and Kenny didn't even hire him. It was clearly the guy above him hiring. I mean,
So I would argue that Kenny, they probably have a succession plan in place already. But you do need more bodies. I don't know who that is. Does Paul Coffey want to continue to coach, or does he want to go back to right beside Daryl Cates as a senior advisor? There's lots of question marks. I think this ride, that's why, I find it tough 2-3 days after to talk about stuff, because I think these guys just want to breathe a little bit. Yeah. I know if you're the Edmonton Oilers organization, you can't. You're on a jet. You're into draft mode and signing guys. Like, you can't tell a guy July 1st, hey, we were just in a cup final last week. Can you let me breathe? Give me a couple days to get my act together. Like, you've got to be organized and know. The other thing, like, Keith Gretzky's there, and he's really really thought of in the hockey circles as a really smart hockey guy. I don't know if maybe he's in the mix to kind of.
He was a candidate 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was the whole self-made man Keith Gretzky thing, which I get it. He's probably very good, but I'd never heard his name in other GM circles in other markets. So that's sort of the.
It's funny because I never thought about it until it was brought up to me last week in Florida, just in passing with some hockey people. They're like, that guy's really sharp. And I was like, okay, that's, it's good to know. You're right. He's not just Wayne Gretzky's brother. Like, he's Keith. He's worked hard. He's, kind of earned his stripes. Like, if he ends up being aligned with the current management group, he might be a guy that gets a peek at it. I don't know, because they might keep it internal and just elevate him. Yeah. He might have been the guy who's handling the day-to-day of some stuff anyways, right? Like, managers delegate. Mm-hmm. So I'm not in the know. I just kind of thought of that instantaneously as we were talking, but it wouldn't surprise me if they brought in a veteran GM as well, somebody that they have crossed paths with or knows the market. But you have to be careful with this one, because you're right. You were talking about there's some big decisions to be made in the next couple of years on their top players, and you can't screw that up.
last bit on Edmonton, we'll keep moving because I know the Oilers honks that hang out in our comments will be talking about the Oiler Hour, and the people that are Flames fans will say, stop talking about the Oilers. We can't win here. Mark Hunter's name has popped up. Is that a fit in your mind?
I would say yes. And the reason being is first of all, he's an unbelievable talent evaluator.
Yeah.
Like you hear about his draft and like what they put together, that program in London is top notch. It's an NHL team in a junior league. Now it's funny. They're known to kind of run in those gray areas too, where like, oh, this player just magically appeared as a London Knight. Like, okay, they drafted him seventh round or something, whatever it is in the OHL draft. But I've heard a lot of people at rumblings in Toronto, like that was a crossroads for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They chose Kyle Dubas over Mark Hunter, and there's a lot of people that wanted Hunter. So it wouldn't surprise me because he's a really, really smart hockey guy. The only thing that I would argue in a Canadian market, and not even argue, I think he's smart. He's not a visible guy. He doesn't care to be in front of the camera. He doesn't care to be a lot like Ken Holland. Ken Holland's a really good guy in front of the camera and all that, but he doesn't, Ken Holland doesn't have social media. He doesn't care about what people are saying. He just kind of does his job. Mark Hunter would be kind of cut out of that cloth. In Canadian markets, I always feel like you need a visible GM, somebody who is, can have a pulse of the market and handle it well. I don't know if Mark would be a great visible GM, but I think he would be a great GM.
Okay. We'll move to another GM we mentioned a moment ago. Jim Nill has bought out Ryan Suter. He's got some of that unbelievable rare air of the double buyout money coming at him. He's going to be paid for 2 teams next year to not play hockey, and he might even find a third to pay him to play hockey. We can joke about his situation. Multiple buyouts at the same time. Like, that's some good eating right there. But for Dallas, it was clear that he wasn't able to help move the needle in a net positive way anymore. They do have some young defensemen that they want to get in the mix. They are trying to get Chris Tanev done. Is this a sign for you that they're trying to keep Tanev at any cost, that they'll even pay Suter to go away kind of thing?
I do believe that. I do believe that they're trying to keep Chris Tanev in a situation where, and apparently there's no secret. There's a lot of teams that are interested in him. It might be a term situation as opposed to money. You might see Chris Tanev get a 6 or 7 year deal at 34 years old, where they know that the last couple of years with the mileage on his body might be throwaway.
LTIR.
But at the end of the day, that's not their concern. Their concern is to get the player at a reasonable AAV. I know for a fact that there's a lot of teams that want Tanev, a right shot defense. You saw what DeMello got. So DeMello sets the bar. Now, I always say this, the Winnipeg tax, the Edmonton tax, the Ottawa tax, some of these markets that may not be the sexiest places to live might have to pay a little bit more. I thought that with DeMello, but DeMello's a real good fit with Josh Morrissey too.
Yeah.
So, I think it was comfortable for both sides. But where I'm going with DeMello is, what does that make for Chris Tanev's market? What does that make for Brett Pesce and, all these right shot defensemen, Matt Roy. Does that make them above DeMello, below DeMello? Like it kind of, I think right shot defensemen are at a premium right now. So it's not going to put it this way. That contract is not hurting Chris Tanev's negotiation. Put it that way. Yeah,
that's fair. And you know what? If you told me you get a top pairing guy at that number, I'd say that's great. It's just that he's more of a fit with Morrissey than he's a standalone top pair guy. I think that's a great deal for both sides. And, someone that plays as well as he does with Morrissey, like you don't want to lose that to try to save $500,000. Saw Brad Treliving last night at a steakhouse. He's got his hands full. He's already playing don't trust everything you hear in the media. We got a lot of work to do. We love Mitch Marner. I mean, we're in full PR mode already here, but it is a pretty crucial offseason for him, given that it's the walk year for Marner, who holds all the cards of the no move. And that I think you heard from everyone north of Brad Treliving in the organization, be it Shanahan and, Keith Pelly, the new boss man, that it's just what's happened hasn't been acceptable. 100-point regular seasons, who cares? It's time to win. And you didn't really take a lot of reading between the lines to figure out that if they could move Mitch Marner, they could augment the roster in a way that they'd like to. He's got all the cards. They'd rather move on. This is quite the little dance that the team and the player have to do here.
Well, and the problem is, you know, Tree, I know Tree. They're probably trying to do a bunch of work behind the scenes, but all of a sudden they're just putting out fires out front of it because no information, no news is not good news. It just leads to people going, well, this is what I hear. This is what they should do. So every day they're dealing with another mess because they're having to talk about, well, that's not true. We didn't say this. We didn't do that. We don't believe this. You know, Craig Berube's, I think, gone on record say he'd like to coach Mitch Marner, believes he can get the most out of him. You know, why wouldn't you? Mitch Marner's close to a 100-point player. He's a top-tier player. You know, can you get something different from him? I think the bigger question is, you've got to get on the same page if you're Mitch Marner's camp and you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and go, what do we want to do? What's best for Mitch Marner? What's best for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Do they align? And if they don't align, what is a solution that makes everybody smell like roses coming out of this? Because that's the biggest challenge. And I'm saying easier said than done because I just don't know if that solution is there. You know, it just for me, it's going to be a spicy meatball because if Mitch just goes, I want to get 100 points, play with Austin Matthews next year, and then I'll figure out my contract. Now, David Pastrnak played through a UFA season. Sam Reinhart just played through a UFA season. The difference is this marketplace, and maybe like you said, the way the team is lost and the way the team is constructed. If they identify that's the problem, they can't have four guys that make all the money. And you've got to figure something out if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That is the difference. Everyone wanted Pastrnak back. Everyone, would love to have Sam Reinhart back if you're a Panther. Nicely done. That doesn't seem to be the vibes around the Leafs organization with Marner. Okay, let's get to some other crazy stuff. I'm Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos. Like, these are guys, when we think of them, we think of one jersey, one market. Now, Marchessault moved around a bit, but he's one of the original Golden Knights, the Misfits. Those are just a couple of the really high-profile names in free agency. Are we actually at the point where Steven Stamkos could not be a Tampa Bay Lightning?
I would say yes, but I would also I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because Tampa Bay is one of the original, like, hey, we can figure out this CBA type of thing and we can figure this all out. I talked about giving term to guys to maybe bring that AAV down. That seems like a prime example for Steven Stamkos to go, you're going to be 34, coming 35 in February.
Yeah.
Let's give you 6 years at 7 or something, walk you right to 40 years old.
Yeah, go to $5 million. Sure.
Yeah. And we'll give you, we'll put in another, we'll put in 30 or to 40 million in your pocket, but you're going to retire a Lightning player right into the organization. And like, to me, I think there is a common sense solution to it. Now, if he wants 8 or 9 as a 40 goal scorer, then they might have to get creative. I just don't see them going, yeah, we can't fit you in. Sorry. Like, we had to get Brandon Hagel $6 million. Like, I feel like I think there's a solution there. I just don't know it. And I don't have the magic recipe to make it happen. But, a lot of guys are getting money on that team now, but there is a structure there. It's not like, it's not like they're paying guys 13 and 14. It's 9.5, it's 9.3. Like,
yeah,
I think it's manageable. I really do. It just depends on what does he want, because he's not going to Utah for $10 million a year just to make $10 million a year. Like, you don't you think he wants a chance to win somewhere?
Yeah, totally. And I think history is an important part of this as well. What happened last time Steven Stamkos was a free agent? Everyone thought he was gone. He was touring other cities. And what happened? Tampa, playing hardball, got the deal they wanted. They just had to really wait till 11:59 or whatever. So why are we surprised that the same playbook's being used here? Julien Brisebois was riding shotgun for that last one. Like, we shouldn't be surprised by this, should we?
No, and also Steven's at a different point in his career now, right? Like, that's the other thing. He's 34 years old. Like, do you get paid for 34? I'm sorry. Do you get paid for 40 goals of what you did last year, or do you get paid for your age and what you might do in the next 3 to 5 years? Right. So that's where the interesting part is. You've got to marry the two. Now, he might be a 40 goal scorer next year, and then it drops to 32 and then 28 or whatever. Gone are the days at 31 and 32. You're getting paid for what you did at 25. That was my era. That's not the case anymore. They're paying guys for what they believe they're going to do the next 6 to 8 years. So that's kind of what's flipped. I don't know what the formula is going to be there, but I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Tampa. But my gut tells me he's staying, but I have no fact with that. No back.
I'm with you. Like, it's just he was a billboard before he played a game there in Tampa. Like seeing Stamkos. Like, it was something about it wouldn't feel right if he wasn't there. But again, if I see it, I'll believe it. Okay, some other really interesting names. Guentzel has got to have a huge number of suitors. We talked to Seravalli yesterday. Said that might be the biggest number of teams after one guy. Do you have a spot that you're like, ooh, that's the fit? When you look at what Jake Guentzel can give a contending team, or someone that's a piece away, maybe.
So I thought he was a great fit in Carolina because they need high end finishers, right? I don't know if the number. I don't know if the rocket scientist there, what's his name?
Eric
Tulsky. If Tulsky will be able to, sort it out there. Well, he's got 38 degrees and,
No, he's got all those patents and copyrights. Has he patented the keep Guentzel under $9 million on a long-term deal? We haven't seen that one yet. That's the patent he needs right now.
But him being linked to Vancouver is really interesting.
It is.
Because, they just flushed Mikheyev down the toilet there yesterday.
Yep.
And got Chicago to chew on his deal. And if you took Mikheyev out and added Guentzel, you're onto something there. Like, that's a hell of a team there, because Pettersson will be better at critical times next year. That Miller's really good. Like, they had the depth. That Dakota Joshua was a really nice player. Like, they've got some players there.
Yeah.
And if the goalie stays healthy, like, Vancouver can be a serious team. So I think Guentzel would be a good fit, but if the number is just too high, then you might go, hey, we're going to try and get 40 goals out of two guys at 4.5 instead of one at $9 million type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think there would be, there'd be 7 or 8 suitors that go, we'll find a spot for you. Now, Utah, Anaheim, San Jose is trying to get players. Chicago, they'll throw a boatload at him. I don't know if he wants that at this stage of his career. If he's going strictly for money, he's going to get a massive number from some of those teams that have money to spend. Like, Utah has to spend money to get to the floor, like big money. And the same thing, like San Jose, Barclay Goodrow didn't want to waive to go to San Jose, so they
picked him up off waivers. Yeah,
picked up on waivers. You saw the trade with Jake Wallman. Like, San Jose's trying to make a move. So, I could see them trying to add like Guentzel's and stuff like that just to help their team get to the next level. Same thing with Chicago. Wouldn't Jake Guentzel look nice playing with Connor Bedard?
Oh yeah. Who wouldn't?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the Sam Reinhart thing. If he wants to chase the money, he can go to Chicago too. But these guys that have tasted winning and got close, I just don't see at this point of their careers that's necessarily the move. That's kind of the point you're making.
That's my point. You can go chase money, or you can chase a chance. So what does the chance look like? And what team has $9 million to go here? We'll find a spot. It looks like Vancouver cleared some money there.
Yeah.
So that looks like a natural fit. But things have gotten crazier. Like, I would, what if he just goes, 1 year, $6 million, Edmonton, something crazy to play with McDavid on the left side.
That's some nightmare fuel for Calgarians. Thanks for that, Jamie. Appreciate that.
Well, I'm just saying,
you're right though.
But there might be something that we're not seeing, like that is right in front of us. But Guentzel's going to get paid, and he's pretty much got his pick of the litter.
Detroit gave away Wallman with a second. That was surprising. That felt like a missed opportunity to get a later pick coming back to you, but it also felt like, okay, maybe they're trying to get something done quick here. There's no time to worry about a second here or a fifth there. We got something huge cooking. It does feel like not unlike some other teams we've noted, but for Detroit, it's like we're done the collecting young players. It's time to compete. They're in a tough division. I feel the same way about Buffalo. I feel similarly about Ottawa. I think you noted Utah's in a similar spot. We got all this money. We've been picking high forever. We got picks for days. Like, let's turn these into some today assets, not guys in 4 years that may or may not help. And a lot of those teams that pick in the top 15, I think Detroit's right at 15. Buffalo's at, 12? New Jersey at 10. They're a team that doesn't need a prospect as much as they could use another impact roster player probably. Utah top 10, Ottawa top 10. I'm fascinated about this draft tomorrow and to see if maybe some of these picks are in play when usually we hum and haw and it doesn't happen. It feels like there's more fuel for it actually to go down this year.
I said this yesterday to one of our insiders, and I just said, like, does it feel different this year than it's felt the last couple years? And the only thing that we can point to was the cup was handed out 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So everything feels rushed. It's like, okay, we're onto this thing, and now we got free agency on Monday. Like, I think everybody now there's Ottawa does that deal on Friday night, 12 minutes before puck drop. You're like, or Monday night, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? The league allowed a trade call on a game 7, and you're about to drop the puck, which good on Ottawa, good on Boston. They've got to do business. But these other teams I feel like there's teams that are playing catch up where they're like, hey, we got to get this done. That speaks to that the cup should never be handed out on
June
4th, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like this year, I say this every year, but I feel like all hell's going to break loose at this draft because there isn't McDavid or Matthews in this draft. Celebrini's a nice player, and it sounds like it's a deep draft from as far as prospects, but there's no generational player there. So now it's choosing the right guys for your fit for the future.
Yeah.
Because I would argue, I don't think 5 to 10 of these guys are going to step right in and play in the NHL next year. It's a draft and develop year.
Yeah.
Good players, the Tij Ginlas of the world. But I think Tij will go back to junior for a year to grow his body and all of that. So my thought process is exactly what yours is. When you've got these teams that have been collecting picks and are trying to turn the corner, they can waive a top 7. Here's my 7th pick. Here's my 9th pick for a live roster player that a team needs to dump because they're trying to sign somebody else. So you can get a $6 million goal scorer from another team that is trying to get rid of that contract. The Mikheyev example, like Vancouver, he didn't work out there. He got injured. He's a guy who gets 500 breakaways a year and he scores on 3 of them. Like, it's just unfortunate. It's
Matthew Lombardi syndrome, right?
Yeah, but it just, what it is Chicago's like, we'll take him. We need to get we got money. And, this is a guy that's an experienced NHLer who's a pretty good, 20 goal scorer that we got for free, really. So I think that's where Utah, that's where you mentioned, Buffalo and Detroit and all of these teams that want to get to that next level. It's to hell with the draft and developing. We've been doing that for years. We need some live bodies right now and to make that happen.
You've been talking about the backlog on the left side of the Senators' blue line all year.
Yeah.
It can't go much longer now. This is Chychrun's walk year, if I'm correct. That feels like a big chip in play too.
I would be shocked if he's not traded or they make a decision on that left side, either him or Shabbat. Shabbat's got a long-term deal. Shabbat's a little bit older. But I just think Shabbat's got the roots there. I think they trust him. I would argue it's probably more, Chychrun is an easier deal to move.
With 1 year left.
He's a point producer. He's everything. I think he would be attractive to a lot of teams. So, if you're going to, in a perfect world, they're trading Chychrun for a younger Chris Tanev. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that.
Right shot.
Right shot, stabilizing defenseman to play with Sanderson or Shabbat. Because they got Artem Zub there. They need one other guy. Yeah. And then, they've got this kid Clevin who's coming, Tyler Clevin. He's a really nice player. I think their defensive core is going to be fine. They got a kid named Jacob Bernard Docker who's a right-handed shot, but they if you added another top 4 right shot defenseman, then move Chychrun and or Shabbat out, I think you're in business there because that defensive core looked really nice. And then you've dealt with the goalie. Then you start dealing with the forward. I thought it was a sneaky move that they included Kastelik in that deal to Boston.
Okay.
He's a really nice player. He's big. He can skate. He can fight. He's a good fourth liner.
Yeah.
But what Ottawa needs is fourth line players that are veterans, like grizzled veterans, to help the young guys above them. So, you're looking at, like, I thought Derek Ryan and Sam Carrick and guys like that in Edmonton, that fourth line, like, they were grizzled. They knew how to play, right? You weren't, on a night where maybe it's a Tuesday night in November and you're trying to protect the lead, these guys won't fold, where we've seen younger guys get overwhelmed by the situation. So I think Ottawa is on the right path to clearing some space, to getting some grizzled vets to help those young players get to the next level.
Yeah, and I guess we've sort of alluded to it, but we haven't talked about that Ullmark deal. You have to be happy that if you're, I think, a Senators supporter, because A, the price wasn't that high. B, the guy won the Vezina 2 years ago. You really didn't give up a lot. You didn't have to include number 7. I guess we're just seeing that the market isn't great for goalies, especially when they're 30 or older. The deal for Markstrom was panned in Calgary, but after seeing the Ullmark deal, you're like, shit, I think Connie did better than we thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the amount of goalies that have moved already. We're not even to free agency, it's musical chairs. I think Markey was the guy that teams coveted the minute he went to New Jersey. The reason why Ullmark would have been, a 1A, 1B type of thing to Markey is because, Ullmark's younger and wanted probably an extension to go into place. And he had some certainty where he was to control. He had a 15 team no trade list. So, you get Ullmark. I'd be shocked if we don't hear on July 1st they've extended him for 5 years or whatever. I don't know what that number. I talk about the Ottawa tax. I don't know what that number will look like. Yeah. But if it's probably $6 million a year, something like that. Maybe 6.5, 7. I don't know what the number looks like. I'll be honest. But I think they sign him. They've got Anton Forsberg there already at 2.8, who can be a really good 1B, because like Ullmark's not a 60-game starter. He's not.
No, he's never been. Yeah.
So he's good. You're looking at 50-30, which is fine, because if both of those guys can do that, Ottawa needed to do something different in net from a visual dynamic, like going, we can't bring that tandem back. Even though we like them, they were like almost last. I think they were second last in save percentage last year. It just couldn't bring them back. So they chew on $1 million of Korpisalo. They get Ullmark brought in. Like it was a really nifty move. And I thought Boston did well on that deal too, because you got Korpisalo at $3 million. Now you're going to pay Swayman. Korpisalo can give you games. And I don't think he's a bad goaltender. I just think he didn't settle in and wasn't comfortable there. I think both organizations were comfortable with that move. I thought it was a really, really good move, though, for Ottawa.
All right, final note for you. I know in Calgary we've all got the Ginla goggles on. It's the storyline everyone's cheering for. It looks less and less likely he'll slide to 9, but then you never know. It is a crazy pull names out of a hat from 2 to 12 type draft. Is there anything you're rooting for tomorrow, whether it's trades, Ginla to Calgary, Ottawa to make a blockbuster? What would have you with the full popcorn meme going tomorrow night?
All of the above for what you just said. I mean, I want, and I kind of don't want much to happen, because it means that I'm going to sit there like an idiot on free agency day, and it'll be all speculation. What should they do? What should this team do? Instead of all this stuff happening, because it's happening before. But that being said, I would love to see Tija Ginla play for the Calgary Flames. I would. Nothing would make me happier. I'm just scared that he just won't be available then. Like I'm hearing, like, honest to God, I talked to a scout yesterday. Like on their list, he was 4. On another list, he was 5. Like, like I wanted him to be, hey, he's 11, so that Calgary can grab him at 9. You know what I mean? Like that's where. But everybody you talk to, like this kid just continued to climb. Then you look at the dad and the DNA, and like you're like, this kid's going to be a top 5, I think. Which, it's amazing for Jerome and his family and Tej. But if Connie's trying to trade down, like these teams probably are going to try and get a king's ransom out of him for Connie to go 4 spots or 5 spots up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I would like to see a blockbuster trade. Anything the Leafs do, it just makes my life easier because we can talk about nauseam. I love anything that Calgary does because, again, come on, and we just break down what Connie's up to. I think Connie's done a great job. Like I'm 100% biased because I love the guy and I played with him, and we're close friends. But I think he's done. If you take a look at his body of work, some of the trades and some of the things that he's inherited, just, naturally on deals expiring, a vision for the organization, like even just the Toffoli deal.
Yeah.
Like getting ahead of something instead of it, being a hindrance for you. I like Tyler Toffoli, but, at some point the legs will drop off and you're going to be stuck with that. And they're already, they've already got a few contracts that they might be stuck with, moving forward. So, I think Connie's done a great job. Anything the Flames do, I'm always eyes on. I like the Markey trade because I think it gives a pathway for Dustin Wolf.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see because I just know that all these managers right now are wheeling and dealing. So it's almost like I wish I was a fly on the wall for 48 hours, just like listening, This is where
just ask Connie. He'd let you do that, right?
This is where you need spyware. Like just
spyware. Okay.
You're like listening to these deals go down. You're just a fly on the wall. It'd be awesome. So,
all right. Well, and I agree with you with Connie. I mean, he was put in a spot that was not easy. He's made the right decisions in terms of not committing to guys longer in the tooth with the commitments they already have. They've got 6 firsts in the next 3 years. I mean, that's it for me. It's like, what do you get out of those 6? Do you find 2 stars? Is it 4 plumbers and 2 swings and misses? I mean, you can talk about a quicker turnaround if you find some stars here, and you're talking about a decade of darkness if you don't pull a star out of these 6.
Yeah. Well, I mean, drafting and developing, finding some of these players, finding some of the things that you need for your organization. Sometimes it is a crapshoot, but you got to trust your staff. You got to trust the guys that are, scouting for you. And that's where, honestly, Craig Conroy, you hear that he was in Florida the other day watching prospects at a Dan Milstein's camp or whatever it was. Yep. Like, managers put the work in. Like, it's not just worrying about, like, Connie's been putting the work in the last 2 months. His team hasn't been playing. He's not just sitting watching what we're watching on TV. This guy's been out there working, trying to pound the pavement to make his team better, to give himself a chance. So, I hope they end up getting the right players. I hope they end up finding, some free agent guys that can help their team. I think there's still trades available for the Flames and other teams to try and pick at the Flames. I would be shocked if teams weren't calling for like Rasmus Anderson. Like he's a right shot defenseman who can handle the puck. And
that's the one for me. If you want to go get Tej and he slides to 7, don't you just call Ottawa and make that happen? Like, there's 2 years left on Rasmus. It's pick 7. Maybe he doesn't slide there. Maybe Demidov does or Caden Lindstrom, but someone that you're like, oh my God, like we got to. I mean, that would fascinate. I take it too much of your time, but yeah, like this, it all ties into this fascination around, names out of a hat from 2 to 12. We really don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I can't wait. I actually thought the draft was tonight, so I was like, oh, this is exciting.
Damn it.
And I talked to somebody there. They're like, no, it's tomorrow, you idiot. And I was like, oh, okay. So I get my days are all mixed up. My kids are out of school, so I thought it was Friday today. So that's my
last day for us today, back at home. So I'm hearing about that. Okay, so let's just hypothetical. Let's just say you're in Vegas for work. You thought the draft was tonight. It's not till tomorrow night, and you got a free runway here. You don't have to do anything until 4 p.m. local time tomorrow. Where are you going in Vegas for a night out? Green light, Noodles.
Oof. So there's Delmonico Steakhouse at the Venetian.
Okay.
Unbelievable. You got to go there. But there is a vodka bar So I don't know if you know this, but you can go in for an hour, you pay, and it's an ice bar. It's called an ice bar. So you put on a parka, a hat and gloves. They give you a cup made of ice, and then they just pour straight vodka in it. You sit in ice chairs. It's an ice bar, like a bar made of ice. I can't remember what hotels it's in. Like Google it, ice bar.
Okay.
We always start our night there because you go in and you drink vodka for an hour and then you start your night. It's unbelievable. I've got pictures of it. I wish I had. I don't have anything here that I could pull up.
I love it. I've got my mission. That's the starting point, and it's 42 outside, Noodles. You got to go to the ice bar, of course.
You go to the ice bar. You're going to Delmonico's, and then you find one of those pool bars at Cosmopolitan. You go there. Can't remember the name of the. It's not Wet Republic. That's the other one. But you go to the pool bars where it's indoor, outdoor. You go inside for the air conditioning. You go outdoor. You watch people swim in the pool and jump in the pool and get drunk. So, and the house music's going. You get a nice little table. You get a little bottle service. And so to me, it's ice bar, then Delmonico Steakhouse, then to
pool party.
Cosmo, Wynn, one of those that have the indoor, outdoor pool.
All right. We'll report back next week. Thanks, buddy. Love the itinerary.
Enjoy.
Looking for the fastest personal loan in Canada? Well, look no further. Spring Financial offers fully online personal loans with zero stress and no need for branch visits. But don't take our word for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Spring Financial.
Thank you very much.
Spring Financial is the best.
Apply today at springfinancial.ca.
All right, we are back poolside at Stadium Swim at the Circle Hotel in Fremont in downtown Vegas, and it looks like our guest is already to rock and roll. We're going to say hi to Cami Kepke from the WHL and, of course, from Afterburner, but early and probably very excited. It's the director of scouting for the Calgary Flames, Tod Button, who is – there's Tod. All right, there we are. Sorry, Tod.
Sitting down.
Didn't mean to rush you, sir. I guess that must have been Hanlon. We're staring into the lights here. Poolside, are you air conditioned there, Tod? How are you?
I'm air conditioned, and I know where the vodka bar is. It's in the Mandalay Bay. So,
excellent. See, it's this collective effort. We can get this done together. You guys have to be awfully thrilled. 2 picks in the first round, 8 in the first 4, and the first of 3 years in a row, Tod, where you're going to have a pair of first rounders. It looks like. Just maybe talk big picture about some of the years you haven't had first. You haven't picked till the 4th one year. Now you got 2. Generally speaking, how excited is the scouting group?
really, really excited. And I think as you spoke to it or referenced it, when you get to have 8 picks in the first 4 rounds, and we've had drafts where we didn't pick to the fourth round, there's an excitement within the whole scouting group, because even though you have to do your list when you don't have a pick in the first 100, you want them to be engaged. But reality is, you're not going to be picking for a while. So you just cross the names off the list. So with all these picks, we've had lots of meetings where we're trying to figure out the order. We've got that done now. So everybody's been so engaged, all the area scouts, the European scouts, and everybody's excited about the bulk of opportunity we have coming tomorrow night and Saturday.
We had Connie in studio last Friday, and he said, I'll ask Tod, hey, is this guy going to get to us? And Tod will say no. And this guy going to get to us? And he said, but this year, Tod's having a tough time saying no about a guy sliding. We know Celebrini's going to go 1, but can you recall a class that seems so volatile or undecided when you get to pick number 2 and beyond?
No, and that's it's funny because we've talked about that a lot. Usually you have six players for 8 spots, or you have 12 players for 17 spots. We have more players we like for 9 than spots available. So that provides excitement for the staff. That makes us dig in a little more and make sure that we're going to get this right. And we just had a little meeting here, and no matter what, our staff is excited that we're going to get a really, really good player for the Flames at 9.
Yeah, that's fair. This class midway through the year felt like it was going to be D heavy. We're starting to maybe see some of these forwards jump up, but how hard was it, I guess, making sense of those top 5, 6, 7 D and a lot of very different types of guys? You got a lot of lefts, a couple righties. You've got a huge towering guy that defends really well. You've got some point producers. You've got the well-rounded D. I mean, that would be quite a challenge for your group, I imagine.
It is. And one thing we did we tried to sort those guys out by value throughout the league, or what winning teams had in their D corps. And lo and behold, we found out they have all of them.
Right, you need a bit of
So
everything.
it didn't really help the process. Yes, they have shutdown guys, they have offensive guys, they have two-way guys, they have skaters, they have size. So we're just going to go by our process. And again, we have to make a decision. So we have to rank them. There's a lot of good defensemen, and we've got our list in order now. So it's going to come out. We're not going to have a choice of the first couple of guys, but after that, like at 9, we're going to have to make a choice, and whoever that is on our list, we're going to be excited about.
Todd, we got Cami with us as well.
Yeah, hey, good to see you, Todd. Rolling in with the tumbleweeds here today. But I was curious, what does strike you about this class of defensemen? We have a lot of big guys, a lot of those coveted right shot guys. And we know that obviously scoring is the most important thing at the NHL level. But when we see guys make the jump to the A, really a lot of the time it feels like it is about getting professional level defense down. How does this class seem to measure up to that?
You're so right. And so you have offensive guys, you have two-way guys, you have guys that we think are going to be elite shutdown defenders first and then provide offense secondary. So sorting them has been hard. It's harder to teach offense. It comes a little more naturally to offensive players. It's harder to teach defensive-oriented players offense, but it's a little bit easier, obviously, especially with structure and you have a partner and details to implement more defense into those skill or offensive guys first.
It's been a huge challenge for your community, I imagine, with Russia in the penalty box for political reasons in the hockey community. You haven't been able to measure the Demidovs and Salayevs against other nations' best at the same age group. How has that affected the last couple of years in the draft?
It was hard. It was hard to not have eyes on these guys, so to speak. We had a lot of video on them. We had our analytics on them, but not to have eyes on them was hard. We hired Denis Grabeshkov last year in Russia, and he's been so helpful to our group because we have a lot of faith in him and his evaluations. He's got a good history, international hockey, NHL. So he's been really helpful to us. And then Dan Milstein had an agency camp last week in Fort Lauderdale. So a bunch of those top guys came over, and all the teams were there to watch them. They put them through drills. They did combine workouts. They did individual workouts, and we got to talk to them. So compared to the last couple of years, we think we're way ahead in our overall evaluation and projections on these guys. And I said before, not only with the top guys, but guys into the 3rd and 4th round too, that Dennis has identified that we might not have seen on video because we didn't have eyes on them early.
And then you have guys, I think particularly on the offensive side, you have like your Caden Lindstroms, your Ryder Richies, who are top-end talent, but they had their season significantly shortened by injury. How much time do you need to see a guy before you're really comfortable that you have a grasp on what they are?
I'd like another couple of months, please. Scouts are always saying
bad news for you, Todd.
Yeah, we always want one more viewing or one more video viewing, so you have to make a decision. The good thing with both those players is that they were on the radar early. So we saw them a lot. There were players at the Hlinka. We saw them last year at the Under-17 Challenge. So we had an underage book on them. So you want to see him in the key moments, especially Caden, who didn't play at the Under-18s. But we saw him enough, and we have enough of a history with him that we're not worried about our evaluation on him. Same with Ryder Ritchie. He was stopped in the middle of the season, but then he came back at the end. He was on the Hlinka team and the Under-18 gold medal team. So we're very confident that we've had enough viewings on him. The 1 year going back when Morgan Riley played 5 games and Calchenia played, they both had the knees. That was much more difficult. So we're way further ahead in that regard this year.
And so is part of the equation lost development time, or is it more just getting a good body of work that you can judge what a player is, or is it a blend there?
It's not much of development time because these kids are still 17. They got a lot of room to develop. The most important thing is making sure the injury's not going to linger or that it's career threatening or that type of thing. So once we get the medical consult and they give us no problems, don't worry about it, and they give us the go ahead, then we're good with our on ice evaluation. And then Matt Brown does the mental part. So we're good in all 3 phases with all our injured players.
I find it fascinating how teams try to navigate what happens ahead of them, because you obviously can't take anyone until it's your turn, but you do want to try to get a handle on what's happening ahead of you. And I feel like this is some spy versus spy clandestine stuff where you try to figure out, well, I don't know, what about Utah? But this team needs this. Is that sort of futile or a fool's errand, or are you able to do that well? Like, I feel like this is misdirection season. If teams are saying things, they're probably trying to throw you off the scent.
There's a lot of misinformation and misdirection, and you try and get the information for sure. You like to have an idea, especially if you're trying to move up, for where you might have to move to get a guy. But there's lots of lies being told at this time of year, and the agents are lying, the scouts are lying to the agents, the media's lying, the scouts are lying to the media. So it's a lot of misinformation. That's a nice way to call it lying. But everybody's trying to get an edge and trying to figure out, maybe not as much at 9, but if a team's at 15 and they want to get into the top 10, what does that take and who's interested? And so for us at 28, we're doing the same thing more from like 10 to 18. What do we have to do to get one of these guys that we like in the next group of players moving up, and who's interested in them? So there's a lot of just listening and trying to figure it out. And it's not that easy, but at the same time, there's misinformation.
So it's fair to say you sort of feel like there's another ledge somewhere around 20. Is that accurate?
That's what we're saying. Yep. So I think it's a little bit deeper than I think we got 22 for 28. We think we're going to get a really good player at 28 as well. And then there's a group of 6 or 7 guys after our top group that we'll get at 9 that we talked about what the cost would be to move up into that, into the top 18, say 10 to 18 to get one of those players.
Interesting. I know Cami's been doing a bunch of work with the Western League. How would you rank the Western League's group? There's certainly 3 pretty interesting players that I think we'll see in the top dozen.
Yeah, it's really good. It's good throughout Canada, I think, this year. More Ontario in the West. Quebec's a little bit leaner this year.
Yeah.
But even you have the top Western Hockey League guys, but you also have a really good group that's going to go like say 20 to 55. There's going to be a lot of Western Hockey Leaguers in that group. So it's exciting for the CHL. It's exciting for the Western Hockey League and being part of the Hitmen and everything. So we're excited being a Western team that we can get some guys that maybe come close to home.
Must be a little extra exciting for you guys knowing that you get so many looks at guys like Carter Yakubchuk, who there's a lot of hype around, but also a Carson Wetch, who Gary Davidson's first pick coming into the Hitman organization when he came over from Everett, who that kid has a lot of throwback winger vibe to his game.
See, I don't even need to add to that. You are bang on. He is a throwback winger.
Do you feel like you've been able to take advantage of maybe some of that vertically integrated knowledge? Like you guys are in the same building as the Hitman staff, coaches. Are you still bringing in Carter, for example, to talk to in draft week, or is it like, no, we've seen this guy in the building all year? Like, how do you approach the process with a guy that you've probably seen at your job 100 times this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We go through the same process with them. The biggest concern we have is we see him too much sometimes. Right. We don't want to poke holes in him that we wouldn't see another guy. So we want to be careful with that aspect, but it's good to have eyes on them. It's good for Connie and Dave Nonis and Don Maloney and that group to see these guys more, not only with the Hitmen, but the other teams coming in. So when Brandon comes in or Kamloops and Kelowna come in or Spokane, they can see those guys. So it really helps overall having them. Our biggest fear is that we don't want to over evaluate or pick a guy apart because we see him so much.
I got to ask, do you have any memories of Byron Ritchie?
I do. I remember. Well, I don't want to age myself, but I've been around for a while. So yeah, I talked to Byron a little bit at the under 18s. He was a dad first there because him and Jerome were pacing when the games were being played. But yeah, Byron was a thick, strong, really feisty, competitive guy. And I find with the parents that were like that, they try and push their kids to be, as a junior player, Byron was dynamic, right? Skill and offensive. And then he found his niche in the NHL. So I remember all those guys for sure.
Matt, you want to talk about pushing your kids. So Ryder says that he doesn't remember a ton about his dad's time in Calgary because he was pretty little, but he says one of his first memories is getting to go down to the Flames dressing room after a game, trying on all the goalie gear because Ryder wanted to be a goalie. And he said his dad came out to a Timbits practice and just rifles a shot off his chest. And he said he never wanted to play goalie again after that. It worked out because his release is insane.
He could have done it another way. He may want to just have a conversation with him, but he proved his point regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Tod, final one for you. Just how is the dynamic at the table when you're 1 or 2 picks away? Are you trying to hide anguish if the guy you really want to slide isn't there? Are there multiple guys around the table that want it to go a different way? Like, what is the dynamic as you look around the table with Connie at the helm?
Yeah, we're in a good spot to try our poker face at the table. For sure, you get excited if you see a guy following, and if somebody goes you really like maybe ahead of where you thought they would, you want to hide that emotion too. So we're working on our poker faces, and not a better place in Vegas to do it.
Are you in the Sphere right now?
No, we're in our hotel, the Cosmo.
Okay. I mean, we're all starting to see the Sphere for the first time. Just what's it like, when you roll into Vegas and it gets dark and you start to see all the lights and the NHL draft logo? I don't even know what you call it, just beamed across the Sphere.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool because it's an experience you're never going to see. We've never seen before, so I don't know when we'll see it again. But I could see the Cosmo from my hotel, or the Sphere from the hotel room, so it's pretty neat.
Is this a city like 6-7 years ago? This team wasn't in the league. Vegas was a place you might have done a thing here or there. Like, do you feel like this is a big ad for the league? Like, this is clearly huge hosting event, mecca of the earth, right?
100%. Like, providing entertainment to all the people and the atmosphere around an NHL draft in any city. Nashville was unbelievable last year. Yeah. It's a really it sort of puts your league on the map. So it's a big event in the middle at the end of June, basically. So you're in the city here, you see all that stuff, you see the banners. It's pretty neat for not me as much, but I assume for the kids and the kids coming in and the families coming in, and you got Europeans who've never been to Vegas before. I think it's pretty neat.
Well, hopefully things go well tomorrow and you can celebrate at the Ice Bar, Tod. Thanks so much for sharing some time with us. We appreciate the insights, and obviously Flames fans awfully excited about the prospect of a couple first round selections this year and the next couple moving forward. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you both.
All right, there's Tod Button, Director of Scouting for the Calgary Flames, as we continue our barn burner live from the Circa Hotel on Fremont in downtown Vegas.
It is burning. It is burning.
Stadium Swim. Cami just rolled in. What do you make of this pool / sportsbook / casino? It's something.
I'm overwhelmed. I think I'm definitely I'm a winter bitch. I am a cold person. I like skiing. I like snowboarding, curling. I am not built for this.
I'm going
to be a puddle tomorrow. Yeah. I'm going right to the Ice Bar after this. Tell you what, it sounds like that. What's that James Bond movie?
Oh, but yeah, I don't know the name, but you're
the
right.
one with Halle Berry.
I feel like a scene in an ice bar is straight out of a James Bond film.
Yeah.
We've got you. I want to pick your brain on some of the Western League kids at the top of the draft. I think it would be a safe bet to suggest that Caden Lidstrom could be the first Western Leaguer off the board. That doesn't mean it's in stone. But let's start with the big center from Medicine Hat, who didn't have a full season, but also didn't fail to impress the scouting community.
No, I don't think there's a lot of worry that the injury is really going to linger. And he's just so powerful all the time. He's always making things happen. That's something that's really impressed his head coach, Willie Desjardins, also the general manager of the Medicine Hat Tigers. This is a guy that a lot of people see strong upside in, and he's a great kid. He comes from a super nice family. Mom's super hardworking. So I think whoever gets him, lucky to have him.
Yeah, I saw the NHL drop a little tidbit. He ran a 40 time last summer that would have put him in the top 13 in the NFL. You're like, what? Like, this guy's an athlete.
Just one of those. Drop them in any sport and they'll be fine.
Okay, TJ Ginla's a big one, and it's more than just a Western League conversation. It's oh my God, that's the greatest player in franchise history's son. That's the conversation in Calgary. What have you made of his second year in the Western League and his first with the Rockets?
It's so cool because this year we really got to see what happens when he gets an opportunity and runs with it. The reality is last year he was on a very good Seattle team, obviously won a championship, but you're not necessarily going to find minutes all the time for a kid like that. So maybe we didn't get to see what he was at his fullest potential there. So he took off like a gunshot this year, and we saw it and just how much his stock rose from the start of the season to the end. And I think there's a lot of players out of the WHL who have a very similar case where this was a breakout year for them.
Yeah, I recall talking to someone in the offseason and they're like, yeah, I think, probably a safe bet to go in the second round. And then you check in before Christmas, like, nah, this kid's in the first round now. And then late in the season, you're like, shit, this guy might be the first half of the first round. And then he goes into the playoffs, sets a Rockets record with 8 goals in a series. There's been some good players that have played for the Rockets over the years. Does it as a 17-year-old.
Even playing with Hiroki Goisek, who came over from the BCHL this year to play for the Rockets. His younger brother's also drafted by the Rockets. That was another little, hey, let's go there. But seeing those two play together, they're both pretty physical, actually. And I think they built well off of each other. So that's really helped Hiroki's draft stock as well. Yeah,
and now there's the thought Tej could be on some teams' lists in the top 5. And if you're the Calgary Flames, you're just hoping that maybe someone in the top 4 is still on a team's list if Tej is available, because it's just the more you look at it, the more you're squinting to see him get to 9. It feels like it's a long way all of a sudden for Tej to get to.
I want to know what the secret is to his power. Someone on the coaching staff in Kelowna told me he's all about milk
Okay.
and Ito.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what
there you
powers
are.
Tej Iginla.
Well, I mean, we could change our diets. I don't know that we're going top 10 in the draft, but it feels like Tej might be a safe bet there. Carter Yakimchuk's an interesting one.
Mhm.
The Calgary Hitman, right shot defenseman.
Huge right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
That is not something that comes along all the time.
Right.
And this guy, I mean, you don't see offense like this from defensemen all the time. Seeing any 18-year-old score 30 goals would be nuts. He's doing this as a defenseman.
Yeah.
He broke Calgary's single season scoring record for goals by a defenseman, which was previously set
draft
by
year.
Jake Bean. Now, the one thing is, and we also saw a couple 120 pims.
Yeah.
This guy really does want to show off that he's physical and he can play it at both ends of the ice. And I think there's huge upside for Carter.
Yeah, so those would be the big three. Do you have another dark horse that could get into the top half of the first round?
Well, I don't know if he's a dark horse.
Oh, sorry,
Should we
sorry.
mention
I missed
maybe a
another.
one Berkeley Catton?
Berkeley Catton. I got too excited. I was thinking three. There's four guys. And Catton, appropriately, I think, is getting undervalued for the massive, 115-point season to lead all draft-eligible players? That's crazy.
It was nuts. Like, there's no way this guy couldn't score. And it was on a team where there wasn't necessarily a ton of run support all the time, but we saw great stuff with him and a Connor Roulette and a Chase Berthollet. But Berkeley just really has all the tools. He's so dynamic, so fast. And even if he's not the biggest guy, he's an evasive guy.
Yeah. No, I think there's questions about whether he's center or winger, but I don't think there's any.
Johnny Gaudreau-ish with the evasiveness, I'd say.
But bigger, right? He's not tiny.
No.
And he still could be a centerman in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, I think you're going to see a lot of point production and just the creativity, thinking it. That's someone's going to get him, and we're going to look back and be like, he should have gone sooner. I get that vibe. I even forgot to mention him. That's kind of perfectly underlined where I think teams are at on him.
I mean, if he's going to fly under the radar, that's a big win for whichever team does get him, because he's capable of great things. But there are, you said you want to know some dark horses.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because it is such a mix when you go down the line. We'll look at mock drafts and see a WHL player who's ranked at, 25 on one list and 72 on another.
Whoa.
So they really could go anywhere. But there's some really great physicality in the forwards. When you look at, we mentioned Carson Wentz as a bit of a throwback winger, and Andrew Basha out of Medicine Hat. Calgarian, good Calgary boy. Kippersoft fan.
I think I helped purchase a bunch of his hockey equipment because his dad owns the pub 6 blocks from the studio.
Oh, the Garrison. Yeah, responsibly enjoyed their products many a time.
Well, sometimes responsibly, but yes, many a time indeed.
Oh, not you, but yeah, Basha is another great player to watch out for. And then there's some really great stories where you look like an Ollie Josephson with Red Deer, who has a very high-end lacrosse background, been to nationals a couple times, and he brings that creativity and that speed to his game. You look at a Tarek Parasak, they call him the super rookie.
He
had
is
an
crazy.
absolutely banana season with Prince George, leads all rookies in points. And consider this is a kid who was drafted in the 4th round, and GM Mark Lamb sits him down and says, listen, you're going to have to go back down to the edge for another year. We're not quite sure that you're ready for the WHL right now. So he takes that in stride. He puts in the work and he comes in and he has the season he has. I mean, he missed the last couple games of playoffs with an injury, and that really hurt Prince George when they were going up against Portland in that Western Conference Championship. So Parasak's a great one to watch. And then even the goaltenders, there's some big goaltenders coming up. There's Lucas Manteca out of Tri-City, Dawson Cowan out of Spokane. Sweetest kid from Manitoba, undrafted, works his way into the league. He was pretty small when he didn't get drafted, and then he just shot up. But at the end of Spokane's training camp or preseason this year, they had a bunch of sandwiches left for the kids, and everyone's gone. So he goes to the coaching staff and says, can I take these sandwiches? And they're like, oh, Dawson's hungry. But he packs these all up and he spends his afternoon driving around Spokane, handing out these sandwiches to unhoused people.
Come on.
Sweetest guy. Sweetest guy.
See, Cami.
Know things about things.
Loves it. Okay. Amazing.
His bar trivia career.
That's not bar trivia. That's good stuff right there. So Western League would be pretty proud of this group. It's a good crop, better than average. Or is it tough to sort of frame it that way? I guess, you could look high end, the whole draft.
Best every year.
Okay, very
best
good.
every year. No, I think it's
Your
a really
first
great
year,
crop
it's gotta
of
be the
people here.
best.
No, I just think there's so many kids who have great stories. Ryder Ritchie is a player who I'm glad had a great showing at U18s, because I do worry that people forgot just how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he rolls into playoffs with Prince Albert and he shows off. I mean, they didn't make it past Saskatoon, who was the regular season champions, but he showed off. He's got an incredible shot, and that would be huge for any team. We have defensemen like Harrison Brunick, who, if he makes the NHL, would be the first skater born in South Africa
Yes.
to make the NHL. He moved to Calgary when he was
non-Kolzig division, the skater, not the goalie.
another
right?
proud WHL
There you
alumni.
go.
Ole Kolzig, Tri-City Americans.
Okay.
And then Taryn Smith out of Porcupine Plains, Saskatchewan, didn't play at all last year. He played 8 games in his 16-year-old season and got shoulder surgery. He comes in this year and people are like, is this kid even a prospect? And now he's just shot up the rankings. And I think he's around 53rd ranked overall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good year for the Western League.
CHL all-rookie team.
Let's get some transactions. We've had a few today as NHL GMs have not wasted much time. And I guess when you run the final into the same week with a Game 7 as the draft, things are going to happen. GM's got to get stuff done. These are opening statements on the transactions for McLeod Law. You know Peter Klein at McLeod Law. He's the personal injury claim guy. But did you also know he's your go-to guy for your disability insurance claim? If your long-term disability insurance company is refusing to pay you and the benefits you deserve, contact Peter. He'll get you those disability benefits you paid for. He'll also get you back that peace of mind. Peace of mind you paid for. Okay, let's look at what we got. The Vancouver Canucks, Cami, have locked in Dakota Joshua on a 4-year deal. Your AAV for this contract, $3.25 million, as they want to bring back the bruising third-line winger who had a very good year. I don't mind the cap hit. 4 years is a significant amount of term for that type of a role, but it probably allows them to keep that cap hit a little lower. And they love that third line that they had. Dakota
Especially
Joshua had a
Connor
really good
Garland,
playoffs.
yeah. Bluegard, that was a super effective group that they had going for Vancouver this year. It's working. Why split it up?
Yeah, as you can see, 12-team no-trade clause for him and some signing bonus money up front for Joshua. That leaves, by the way, $15.9 million for the Canucks, which sounds like a lot, but if you're trying to carve out 9+ for Jake Guentzel in free agency, it eats into that significantly. Then you've also got the Nikita Zadorov conversation on the back end. He wants lots of dough because, well, we all want lots of dough, but he's Nikita. And if he needs to go to a 6th team to get that bag, I don't doubt that he'll do that. But maybe, just maybe, could they squeeze both Guentzel and Zadorov in? Well, the Mikheyev move yesterday to Chicago certainly gave him a little more space. Joshua's done. We'll see what else they do with the near $16 million of cap space. Pick swap today. The Buffalo Sabres have moved back 3 selections. Why? Well, because the San Jose Sharks said take a second-round pick. In fact, pick number 10 of the second round. That's not nothing. So Buffalo slides back from 11 to 14, and the Sharks likely believe they're getting into a ledge now of the top 11 picks where they probably can say, we know we have Celebrini at 1. If we want one of those top 5 or maybe 6 defensemen on our list, it's going to be tough for 6 of them to slide past 11. It's an interesting piece of business for Mike Greer, who has been picking high for a couple of years now, but I never mind that consolidating lesser picks to get a higher value pick. We'll see if it works for the Sharks. D and a forward coming out of round 1.
Come on, can't go wrong.
Let's do it. So those are the moves that we've seen today, and there'll be more coming, I'm sure. Free agency's Monday. It's crazy how much stuff's going on. And, yeah, there's still a lot of teams trying to talk with players and get them sewn up before free agency opens. I'll ask you this. Did you expect we'd be day before the draft and Oliver Shillington still didn't have a contract with the Calgary Flames?
I mean, I'm not surprised, no.
Okay.
Is this the time of year where you really need to get those things done? What's the
bother
he's
with a free
waiting
agent on Monday, right?
Yeah,
so I thought they would have it done by now, and I know that there's a lot of goodwill between team and player, but what are we still trying to figure out that we couldn't a month ago? Maybe it's just the pressure of a timeline, but Shillington sounds like he wants to be a Flame. The Flames certainly would love to have Shillington back. They both have a lot of admiration and respect for each other through the process of the 20 months plus he didn't play. We'll see. I continue to hear that it's going to get done, but we're now just days away from him theoretically signing with another team. Odd.
It's not always easy. And I can get how for a player who has been around the league for more than a year, even given the break where you might not want to be on a prove it deal. But that might just be the situation that he's in.
And the team might say, look, we've only seen you for a few months in the last 2 years. We would like you to prove. I don't know. It's interesting. And we'll see if the Flames do find a way to sort that out before Monday's free agent window. By the way, we will not do a show Monday, but Frank Seravalli is going to have his annual July 1 free agent show. Tyler Remchuk and him will be breaking down all the transactions. So do not fear if you don't see a barn burner on Monday. You won't. It's a holiday. We'll be
You're
nursing
be drunk
hangovers
on a river somewhere.
or floating on a lazy river, something. Maybe lost at an airport somewhere. It's to be determined.
There's
still.
no way you get out of here in one
Frank
piece.
and Tyler.
There's no way you get out of here in one
We'll
piece.
be bringing you coverage Monday on Daily Faceoff's coverage of free agent opening July 1. Okay, so those are some opening comments on the transactions of the day for McLeod Law. A reminder, Shane King, a partner in the Litigation and Dispute Resolution Group. They specialize in areas like employee rights. If you've been laid off or terminated, that's no fun. No good at all. Shane can review your situation and make sure you've been treated fairly and as the law requires, using a practical approach and plain language, not legal jargon. Again, McLeod Law, McLeod-law.com, or find them on social media at McLeod Law LLP. We've got some Betway. We've got a little road ahead for Village Honda. And we have a schedule of events coming up that should be quite fun for everyone here on Flames Nation. Why don't we start with the road ahead for Village Honda? You know, Village Honda, obviously, new vehicles on the lot. You've got the pre-owned selection and the huge network through their dealer group. But here's a new one for you. Mark this date down on your calendar. It is August 24th, their 4th annual Show and Shine, the Honda and Acura Show and Shine. Bigger and better every year. Awards for Best in Show, Best in Modified, Best Classic, and new for this year, the People's Choice Award. You can register now online at villagehonda.com. So, Cami, we're poolside today. Mm-hmm. It's been a whale of a show. We had Noodles, Tod Button, already approaching an hour and a half here. Tomorrow's going to be the marathon, the monster one. Draft is slated to start 4 Vegas time. That's 5 Calgary time. Mm-hmm. We will have a live watch party from, I think, the 15th floor here, RJ, overlooking the whole setup with the pool and the sports book and the 2-story screens. It's at least 2 stories. It's more than that. Look at the windows. It's like 5-story screens. It's crazy here at Stadium Swim. We're going to have some guest dropping.
I'm blind and I can see it from here, so that's a good thing.
It's impressive. It's quite impressive. Kent Wilson's going to join us for a bit. Mike Gold as well. And Cami, I'm hoping we could even check in with you if we get the right Western Leaguer in the right spot, potentially, if that's okay.
I'll clock in from a Zoom and you'll ask me a question and my response will just be frantic screaming.
Hey, if it's the right player, that might be the justified and measured response.
Listen, panic is already my neutral state. So we can only imagine what this weekend's going to be like. Saturday is going to be crazier than Friday, though.
Okay, so we are encouraging all of you to join us on the YouTube page for the watch party, essentially, of round 1. It's usually 3 to 4 hours, and you're right about Saturday. There's a lot of picks to be made, including 6 in the first Saturday 3 rounds 2, 3, and 4 for the Flames. What excites you about Saturday? Just get into the depth of this draft class? And
yeah, I'm really excited. This is my first time being at an NHL draft, so I just want to see how this all goes down. I want to see how the sausage is made.
You will be, I guess, a little challenged by the pace on Friday and blown away at how brisk it becomes on Saturday as things move on.
Legs feed the wolf. We're ready for it.
Also, I'm told it's going to be a very different looking. There isn't one podium where it's commissioner, player, team. It'll be pick made here, go over there, shake a hand here. The sphere is not the size of an NHL rink. So there are additional challenges and/or, I guess, opportunities to make this look pretty different. So, RJ, we're encouraging everyone to join us for the watch party tomorrow night on Flames Nation. And we might even have a couple grouchy old men from Manitoba and Alberta join us on said broadcast.
Who could that be?
I mean, it's a huge surprise. So there's so many, I don't know on this network who it could be. That's our road ahead for Village Honda in terms of what we've got coming up for broadcasts. There'll be no regular barn burner tomorrow, just the huge draft watch party, which should be a ton of fun. And again, a lot of intrigue and suspense around 9. I feel like if you polled the fan base, it's Tej Mania. But if it's not Tej, boy, there's still a lot of good players that'll be available for the Flames at 9.
Seen quite a few mock drafts that are having Berkeley Catton at 9.
Really? Playmaking, high-end winger, vision, points.
You can't go wrong with scoring. You can't go wrong with someone who can score.
Now, I want to pull back the curtain a bit. Our fine producer and technical guru,
who chose to wear black in 50-degree weather.
I mean, he's not a Vegas veteran, that's for sure. He's wearing his Afterburner shirt in honor of you, Cami. RJ's here. And when we recorded the Noodles conversation earlier this morning, he was talking about Tej and the prospects of him being selected early. And the more Noodles talked, the more RJ dropped his head into his hands and almost mouthing words to himself like, please, hockey gods, let Tej slide to 9. I feel he's perfectly embodied the fan base with that emotion. You want Tej. The heart wants what the heart wants. He loves Tej. Okay.
Listen, we all love some Tej, but we don't all get Tej.
There's one Tej and, 8 teams that pick ahead of the Flames. We'll see where the marriage is. Maybe you trade up. Maybe he gets to 9. Also,
you know what, Flames fans? If it doesn't work out for you, there's always Joe.
That's a couple of years away. They do have multiple picks in 16. All right.
Hey, he looked great when he got into a couple games
with
the Oil Kings this year.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's...
You got to love when all of your first WHL highlights come when you're wearing the SpongeBob jersey for Nickelodeon night.
Is that what it was?
Shout out Remax.
Oh, my goodness. Amazing.
Yeah, I forget which team they had. The teams get to kind of come up with what they want to do for those Remax nights we see, or the Nickelodeon nights. You see some teams do like a Paw Patrol, lots of SpongeBob, but one team did a Patrick.
Okay.
So it's just like pink jersey, pink socks, and green pants.
RJ's dying over here. Yeah.
Look it up. It was a very intense game too.
And I thought what was the Diefenbaker Lake Sharks or whatever, or the alternate jersey that
the Slew Sharks.
Thank you. I thought that
we
was
also
a
had
good
the
jersey.
Cobra Chickens up in PA.
Cobra
I actually
Chickens.
didn't know what a Cobra Chicken was until that.
Who knew the Western League could have so much fun? Hey,
we're all fun.
not just grumpy
Come
old
check
men
us
anymore.
out. Get out
All
to the
right.
games. Gavin McKenna coming up in a few years
Yes,
too.
Medicine
Get
Mats,
up.
2026. Go get them. Okay, a couple other bits to get to. Let's jump into our Betway bets of the day. Here's the deal at Betway. If you open a new account, you lose your first bet. Well, don't even worry about it. You could get up to $200 back on that bet. No minimum bet required. The only rule, you can't be in Ontario. Open that new account, redeem your bonus, and then, you either win the bet or you'll be refunded up to $200 on a bet you lose. And that way you've got more cash to bet on your favorite sports, whether that's Copa America, Cami, or whether that's the European Championships, or whether that's UFC. What's the number up there? There's Power Slap. There's UFC. There's all kinds of things you could roll on over at Betway. So let's look at our Betway bets of the day. I've gone with a couple over-unders on draft stock. We'll start with Trevor Connolly, whose off-ice actions and maybe character have come into question more than his actual hockey skill. His over-under on Betway, 20.5. I'm going to take the under, i.e. he'll be selected before pick number 21. The skill is arguably top 10 cusp there. I don't think there's that many teams that pass on him, and I guess a lot of these actions in question occurred many, many years ago. We'll see what happens here, but few people have mentioned to me they don't think he'd get past Detroit if he's on the board when they select, I believe, at 15. So I've got Connolly under 20.5 at minus 115. And then Berkeley Catton, I think he's going to slide a bit, Cami. I love the player, but I just see Beckett Seneke rising like crazy. I see a little bit of a push from Consta Helenius. I think Tej is a slam dunk to go earlier rather than later. I think someone's going to be intrigued by a 6'7" Salayev, and maybe Catton does get to Philly at 12. And what a coup that would be for the Flyers, who have Mishkov already arriving this year. Another offensive weapon to put with him in a couple of years would be pretty fun.
More Catton highlights, the better.
There you go. That is our Betway bets of the day. Want to tell you about Be Aroused. Are you familiar with Be Aroused, Cami?
No.
Okay, well, let me tell you.
Please.
There are medical therapies to
here.
optimize your life in the bedroom and in the washroom. Now, this isn't aimed at you,
And the
Cami.
washroom?
That's right, because as men age, sometimes we need more trips to the washroom in the middle of the night, and that's the sign of maybe not everything being really healthy. So not only could we fix your gotta go pee 5 times in the middle of the night issue, but at the Mod Medical Clinic, you
Like
could
that
also
scene in Gold Member.
Okay. You can also optimize your sexual function as well. For those popping the blue pill, consider this. There are non-medical approaches as well that aren't just Band-Aids, but can solve the actual root of the problem. Viasure works on muscle function. It breaks down scar tissue and reforms blood vessels in the penis. No pain, no downtime, and is covered under extended health benefits. That combined with pelvic floor physiotherapy, the Aroused team can help men with incontinence, sexual performance, hip and lower back pain, and assist the stabilization of the core to optimize mobility. If I get a bad knee, I'm going to go see a doctor. If I have an earache, I go get something from the pharmacist. If you're having issues with either sexual performance or visiting the washroom too much, make sure you go to Be Aroused and check out their website, bearoused.ca, the Mod Medical Clinic. Lots of tools at your disposal there for you to live your best life.
Well, dang, consider me aroused.
There you are. Bearoused.ca for more information. Okay. I believe we've gotten to everything we're going to get to today. Cami, thanks for stopping in and sweating with us here on the
I'm worried my laptop is
set.
going to slide clear off my legs.
I might have to go play a few hands of blackjack with RJ following this. It's time for a cool beverage. And I don't know that we got to the 500 likes Jack was pitching for me to jump in the pool. I feel like we're going to fall short. So
we are short.
Disappointing. Jack, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. You guys are complaining about the hot weather. It's dark, cloudy, rainy here.
Not complaining, just noting it's very hot and amazing, and we're gonna need some cold beverages, Jack.
That's all. Next time we can swap places.
Solutions. You want to host next year?
Some of us are going to go work hard after this.
Yeah, my liver, obviously. What are you talking about?
What's left of it?
4 p.m. tomorrow. Join us. It will be the watch party. Jack, anything else we need to tell people about? I do want to say thank you to Spring Financial for jumping on their first dance on the show today. All of our partners. We can't do this sort of stuff without you. Big shouts to Betway, Village Honda, and McLeod Law, who will be presenting tomorrow's watch party as well. Jack, are you excited? What's your bold prediction for tomorrow night?
Bold prediction, TJ Ginla is a Calgary Flame.
Oh, wow.
We got to start manifesting it right now.
I hope the mics picked that up from behind the camera.
Yeah, no, that was RJ screaming like a schoolgirl. It was
oh my gosh,
impressive.
now he's twerking on the wall.
He's twerking
he's
on the wall.
He's going nuts.
We have to go, people. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow, buddies.